application, typically email service. Then when in the early 90s, when we came up with the web, then the web take over as a platform. Then about 5 to 10 years ago, we thought Facebook or those social networking service may take over as a platform. But it didn't go quite. Then what's happening in the last 3-4 years is that mobile message service is becoming a platform. So people build up all those applications in a mobile message service. And you use only the mobile message service about 70-80% of your time. And accessing the internet is 10, 20, 30%. So here we have a challenge. Can they share the world?
Just to tell you like 2 stories to really drive home this point, right? China, WeChat, if any of you use WeChat, so my entire organization, we primarily use WeChat with each other. We have 50 folks in 12 markets. And he asked me, why do you guys choose WeChat over the rest of the apps? And I said, well, because it's the least likely to get shut down in China. That's why we use it. So we're on it, and WeChat is amazing. To think that aside from tier 1 cities, you picture a tier 2 city in China, a teenage kid getting their first Xiaomi phone, and one of the first apps they have is WeChat because all the friends are on it. WeChat today lets any user book a taxi, reserve restaurants, and even invest money in a money market product, and speak from WeChat itself. So for a lot of people, WeChat is the internet. They have their own likely social network layer on it. And the way the user experience comes together, it's not even clunky, it's not even messy, it's actually very elegant. So when I'm in design conferences in Silicon Valley, all I'm looking at WeChat and saying, wow, this is actually a really good product. You know, it's actually designed pretty well. How did they mash up all those services internet in one app, right? I think that's very interesting. But this is not like a China-only phenomenon that's happening. A recent tweet that has gone kind of like semi-viral around from an American tweet, 13-year-old boy. He had a screenshot on Twitter of his own iPhone, and it asked, how do I get rid of this phone app? And on the screenshot itself, Snapchat, all these other messaging services, and then he's trying to get rid of the phone app. He doesn't even need the phone app. So for a lot of people who talk about the next chapter of the internet, we talk about the future of the internet, right? You can talk about it in 5-year terms, 10-year terms, but if what we've seen in the past 5 or 10 years is that if we want to see a picture of the future of the internet, we don't need to wait 5 to 10 years. Like, the future is already happening. Just that there's a lot of small pockets around, and it's going to happen faster and faster. I think for a lot of my experience in investing in companies, is sometimes I underestimate how large these companies get, how pervasive these companies get. All of a sudden, almost overnight, there's an exponential nature to the growth of these companies and these services, and sometimes it's very hard to predict exponential growth when we're so used to a very linear world.
Go ahead.
Hi. So, first one, I wrote an interview with you.
Would you hold the mic closer to you?
Sure. I wrote an interview that Professor Tom gave once where he talked about how he was struck by told herself about some comments that were made, and how it forced him to think about the ramifications of this platform that he created and what it actually means to kind of be a force that drives something that can move the future of history so fast, and what that can actually mean. And I guess, especially when you started talking, Haley, about these platforms that you're creating and how pervasive they can be, and especially the surveillance mechanism, like you guys have both created and have the power to create these amazing things that also have amazing repercussions for people's lives and people's privacy. And I'm asking for you to reflect, particularly as you're investing in these, like how you have thoughts about those type of things.
Well, yeah, you know, I was in this museum once in Washington, D.C. It's called the museum. I was misled to go into the museum because, like, somebody said, hey, that could be a museum of new things. So I wasn't interested in older things. I wanted to see new stuff. I went in there and it turned out to be a museum about the news. right? So, so when I saw and as I walked through the Museum of News, I saw how the printing press, when it was first invented as a technology, was primarily used by these dupes to spread propaganda and control people who are literate. And it was primarily started off as a control mechanism in a lot of parts of the world in its early usage. And then there was, of course, people got to appreciate the power of print and started printing their own kind of a counter-control, counter-oppression kind of press that went around, right? So when I look at the internet and the services today, I see that it could be used for good, it could be used for evil, it could be used for all kinds of stuff. And it's almost as though the users are learning to use it themselves. We've got people who realize that they posted things too publicly on Facebook, their employers learned about it, and now they're judged in their workplaces because of something that happened the night before, right? All the way to what you brought up as like people committing suicide because of the social media activity that's been happening and impacting them. So when I reflect on all of this stuff, it's really a reflection of what are we investing in, what are we helping to create, and how can we help people use it more responsibly? And am I stepping too far to try to teach people how they should use Facebook, or do we just let them use Facebook and let them learn on their own? I think those are all really interesting thoughts. I think we wanted to add something.
Let me talk on this messenger service in particular. Okay, Asia, yes, we are leading finally on a major platform. Then can we really go ahead like this way, or do we have any problem? It's a kind of new challenge we are having. Like China has a WeChat, and Japan has a Line, and Viber, and Korea has Kakao. Like, can we collectively do the work? For example, I'll give you one example. This is the example like American had a hard time to coordinate back in about 10 years ago. Interoperability. Okay, you are using a Line, okay? I'm using a WeChat. Can we exchange those messages? And you want to do it. But today it doesn't work. And American SNS, they have this program about 10, 15 years ago. And now, can we do it? So can we provide a good platform globally? And then come to this the RightsCon, okay, the human right. Can we come up with a good product in such a way which can satisfy the human rights? And that's the challenge. And the one thing, I'm optimistic. The reason is that if it does not satisfy the RightsCon, people don't choose that product. Since we have those healthy conditions in the internet, sort of get rid of those lousy products. And but that's remains to be seen.
Well, I think to the end, your question. Weapons people, whereas in the past 100 years, it's like these weapons are in the hands of few. So most media, broadcasting, media creation tools are just owned primarily by powers that be. But today people can use apps and different services, messenger services, organized with their friends. So a buddy of mine created this app called FireChat. Some of you may have heard of FireChat and its role in the Occupy Hong Kong protests. What had happened is that what FireChat does is that it connects my phone to your phone, and your phone to her phone, and her phone, and we central internet, we create like a mesh of phones that talk to each other.
It's a mesh technology.
Yeah, mesh technology, peer mesh technology. Their technology called Open Garden is really disruptive because it links iPhones to Androids across all platforms. So if I'm going to open a FireChat chat room today, and we shut down all the internet in the Philippines because something went crazy and we shut down all the internet, all of us will still be able to chat with one another. So a lot of activists around the world have taken FireChat as a tool they can use to communicate with one another, to organize themselves in places where internet may be shut down. But of course, there was that earlier argument that terrorists use this as well to inflict harm. So I think both those scenarios are persistent as we take steps forward, and us as citizens, and us as activists, and us as investors, us as governments, us as human beings have that fundamental choice, or at least with or without choice, right? Is that we have to deal with some of these things which will happen, and all of that's very exciting. More offense go to jail as a result, but instead, all of us are part to create. We should open the floor to questions to see what else you guys are interested in talking about. Like I'm interested in asking you more stuff as a technologist and a futurist. And if you guys ever want to talk about entrepreneurship in Philippines or in other countries, tech entrepreneurship or dynamics of venture capital, I'm happy to talk about that too. This is the awkward moment when I call my mom up to say, "Mom, ask the question in the crowd."
Yes, please.
So, a question about platforms.
What's your name, buddy?
So I'm Sasha.
Sasha?
I'm from Amsterdam, Europe.
Wow, you came all the way here. Well, welcome.
And I actually run a business there. So my question would be about platforms, because we were discussing this, right? Especially the question about human rights, and how do you see, especially in this region, the self-policing of platforms, even beyond regulations that are put upon them, as we see, for instance, even with platforms that are supposed to be in the free world, like Facebook.
Well, I think there's I think if I'm piecing on your question, you're asking about how do we see self-surveillance or self-censorship as more and more people use platforms? Is that the question?
Yeah, but also by the platforms itself. As what we see in a lot of situations is rules imposed by platforms that go further than any kind of rules that a society or a country might have.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like Facebook saying you're not allowed to do this, right? And they invent their own rules on Facebook. And you mentioned earlier is that we either choose to use the services or we choose not to. And I've got friends who choose not to use Facebook. They're like, okay, guys, this is my last post. I'm going to commit Facebook suicide now. Bye. Okay, thanks, bye. And then don't use Facebook forever. I think some people exercise those choices. But what I think is really complex is that I did not want to post pictures from partying last night, but pictures of me partying last night. And that infringes on my, I don't want anyone to share it, So it's complex because it's almost, you lose the freedom to choose when you want to be photographed and shared across. It's like the world's paparazzi right now. And anyone, it's difficult to be so private. But I think the counter argument to that is that it actually helps people to be more responsible. You're less likely to act like a complete jerk last night if you know that a lot of people who photograph you to be a jerk. People who get semi-famous, they kind of try to be more careful about how to conduct themselves. People with sending text messages, it's so easy for me, or for anyone to send text messages to each other and have sexual harassment in the workplace over text messages and have the screenshot immediately circulated out, resulting in people losing jobs. So I think there is an aspect to that which makes people more responsible in real life, because what happens in real life may happen on Facebook.
Yeah, let me sort of add some more. Like today, the WeChat probably the biggest in the world, nearly 1 billion users. And the line is about 500 million. And they are, in a sense, competing. If the WeChat cannot satisfy your requirement, okay, then the people choose the line or something else. So in a sense, we have this competition. It's a very healthy competition. This winner takes all. Give us a very good competition. Like for example, earlier this morning, we had a session on the Messenger. And was talking about this line application in Thailand. Thailand government tried to, after putting they tried to control. Then somehow they made an arrangement. Okay, Line was headquartered in Japan. Like a Japanese, like a law doesn't allow the people say that. And so it seems to be we have those collaboration between the people in the user in Thailand and the Japanese law. So the industry, that's something we didn't expect at all. But seems to be we are coming up with some very friendly competition. And then who is going to remain is something we'll know by in 5 years or 10 years. But nobody knows today.
So who works as an activist or the human rights arena in this room? Well, two or three people raising it. So the panel earlier was actually very inspiring for me because I think I've been stuck in this commercial market-driven role for a while now, and then like I start seeing how a lot of people have been fighting for very basic things and different laws, right? Whether it's in India, Tunisia, Egypt, and all of these we've invested in. We've done 48 companies, I think, in India. And if the laws of a country are not friendly for people to create businesses, to create innovation, and to attract foreign capital or local capital to go into these innovations, it's almost as though the country will be stunted from innovation for a good 5-10 years. It's almost generational damage that happens. So I'll give you a story to exemplify my experience from this. So I just came in from Vietnam. I was just in Vietnam for a whole week. We're talking to different people in Vietnam to try to piece together the conditions for us to invest in 50 companies. A lot of people say it's impossible. They're like, oh, 50 companies in Vietnam, there's only one or two, and like, and the things that they told me was that there's a media humor site similar to 9gag, which is also a portfolio company based on Hong Kong. They're like a humor site, kind of like a viral humor site. It got so big in Vietnam, there are like 2 million unique visits a day, right? Very, very quickly. They were acquired by a large media company in Vietnam. 1 week later, the government ordered to shut down that entire company because there were jokes about the government. So an entire big media business was shut down, investors lost their money, and the founders would have to go, like I didn't get a chance to meet them, I don't know where they are now, but the whole business has been shut down. Now, what actually went on behind the story about that humor site in Vietnam, like we don't know. But the repercussions of that is foreign investors will tell that story to each other. They say, hey man, you want to invest in Vietnam? Like, oh, I don't know, man. There was a company got shut down by the government, man. I don't, yeah, we down here. So people sometimes emotionally, not as rationally based on a lot of these stories. So I don't know if that one move by the government and the way they dealt with it pushed Vietnam's foreign direct investment in technology back by a couple of years. I don't want to be dramatic about it, but I dare say that it does affect people. So the kind of work that you guys do with human rights and working to change laws to make the internet more free, more democratic, and less interruption and interference from the government actually goes a long, long way, not just affecting the lives of daily people, but it affects the economy as well. So I'm inspired by what you guys do, and at first I thought RightsCon, like, should I come to RightsCon? Should I fly to make this? It doesn't seem that's really involved in my thing, but now that I kind of see it, I'm very glad I came. Thanks, for you doing and a lot of people inviting me. I think this is a very inspiring group of people, actually.
Any comment?
I could do another one. I would be very interested to hear more. So you talked a bit about how in Southeast Asia, like startup culture could be different from Silicon Valley. Yeah. And I would be very interested to hear more about how you think or in what way that could be, what the kind of things are already or what things might
Yeah, I'll give you a couple of those. China is bigger than Silicon Valley. Well, in the case of China, it's even bigger. Then they have a very close collaboration with Silicon Valley. Like if you go to Silicon Valley, about half of them, or more than half of them, these are Chinese or Indian. So those collaboration between the Chinese, Indian, and Silicon Valley and their home countries. It's amazing. So seems that's the way we are heading in the next coming years. Unlike Japan or Korea, we don't have much of presence in Silicon Valley.
So it's almost as though China and India are more open, there's more diaspora in Silicon Valley to and fro, more exchange, whereas Korea and Japan are more closed. Is that what you're saying?
No, it just happened that way. It's just, I guess it's incidental.
Okay.
Must it be because they're post-colonial? Sorry.
Yeah, to discourage people from asking questions, the mics are placed about a kilometer away, so you gotta sprint to these mics.
Must it be because they're all both incidentally post-colonial? Like China has a part where it's post-colonial, and then India is also post-colonial as opposed to Japan and what's the other country, Korea, where sort of like standable or like.
I'll let the historian answer.
Yeah, so that would be an interesting point of view if that made a difference to that.
Okay, I guess since the incidental, like you can go back all the way about 30 years ago, like a Chinese or Indian, if they come to the USA, it's pretty difficult to go back to their countries because difference in the living standards is just too much. And on the other hand, like Japan, they just have reached the USA, so they don't want to stay in the USA. And Korea is sort of a halfway. Then sort of they build up a Chinese sort of a network, human network in Silicon Valley and combination, the network between Silicon Valley and China. Then they see the merit of this network, so they try to build up more and more. And that's very powerful. So whatever happens in Silicon Valley is just there.
There's a study featured in a book called The Immigrant Exodus, written by Vivek Wadhwa, where the data shows that I forgot the exact number, about 60% or 58% or something of technology startups founded in Silicon Valley had immigrant co-founders. It'd be interesting to look at the data to see how many of them come from China and come from India, as opposed to Korea and Japan. I think it'll probably validate the hypothesis. Yeah. The question about the differences with this startup culture and US startup culture, like I go around Southeast Asia or Asia and Southeast Asia, they say that in the Philippines there's not so much entrepreneurial culture. People just want to get jobs and stuff like that. I think there is that argument. But on the other hand, what we see about the economies of Southeast Asian countries are that they're primarily made out of small, medium enterprises. They employ the most people, the highest percentage GDP created by small, medium enterprises. And on the streets, I remember my first visit to Manila, this was when I was a teenager, I was in a bus. And then I had a few people trying to sell me all kinds of stuff, man. This dude came up, he had a lot of feather duster. He was like, selling me a feather duster. I don't want a feather duster. And then somebody else came and said, oh wow, I can charge our phone, I got this spare batteries. I'm like, all right. So I was sitting on a bus, right? And 5 people trying to sell me stuff, man. Like to me, every Southeast Asian country you go, there are people on the streets trying to sell things. Everyone's mom and dad runs this ramen shop or something. It's like entrepreneurship as a culture is very much inherently Asian, and it's inherently very much in Southeast Asian countries. That being said, entrepreneurship, we have to wait till we have enough smartphones around, there's enough investors around, and enough kind of brain exchange with Silicon Valley and a lot of these global ideas for local entrepreneurs to want to build things. So I would say that when the entrepreneurship DNA of Asians get bitten by the technology bug and they see a lot of money to be made and opportunities to build great businesses, you're going to see a huge shift in the number of local startups being founded and more success stories coming out from these locales. So I'm pretty optimistic about the future of that.
Any other comment? Okay, while we are waiting, let me sort of slow down in the next 5-10 years as a technical person. The first one is the number of users. Today we have about 3 billion internet users. Within 10 years, we'll double or even more than double. So you'll be by next decade will be 6 to 7 billion internet users. So the challenge is how do we facilitate those new internet users, and they are very likely use only smartphone. They don't use computer. Probably they don't know the Facebook or Google. It's a new breed of people. And how do we facilitate those people to use this facility well? Then next one is Internet of Things. So far we have been talking about how many people. Now we're talking about device. And within 10 years, very likely there will be 1 trillion devices connected to the internet. 20, 30 times of the human being. And this one, I hope in the future RightsCon, they should address this issue. The reason is does it help for the enhance the human rights or the other way around? The problem I anticipate is when you have 1 trillion device connected to the internet, because it means about a couple of hundred per person. 200-300 devices. Per person, they monitor you. Whoever wants to get this information, which is the government, will be very different. And I guess we have to sort of start preparing for those devices to be enriching the human life rather than the other way around.
I've got a beach house, with no 3G and there's no internet devices. You can come over, we can hang there and fish, you know what I mean? And nobody knows we're fishing, how many fish we caught, the size of the fish, the speed of the fish when we caught it, we can hide there. But outside of that beach house, that's a scary thought, right? It's a really scary thought. Yeah, who asked you to invent the internet, man? Look what you've done, bro. Stop it.
No, it's not a technology problem, it's a market problem.
Well, actually, that's a good point. Well, I would also say that I think who's going to build the future, right? What kind of future do we want to build? We can choose a passive stance to sit back and build things, or active stance. In a way, a lot of these stance to a lot of oppressive laws and oppressive kind of situations in a lot of these markets. So what I hope to do is that for more collaboration between the people who free up the internet, the people who invent the internet, and the people who invest in the internet, for all different forces in the market to rally together. And I don't know if there's actually a platform where all these different industries come together to speak about it. The technologists, the technology forces, market forces, and political forces. Actually, I don't know. Maybe you're the chairperson of one of them, but I have to invite myself to one of these. But it'll be interesting to think, right? If like these three forces just sit down and talk about, like, okay, can we just start talking to one another and plan this shit out, right? Instead of kind of like randomly bumping into each other at conferences and see whether something will happen.
Which 3 forces?
Forces of technology, people who just invent stuff or build stuff. Market forces of what people want to invent. Also, what people want to invest in. The inventors, the investors, and the institutions. They don't have an I word for it. But the people who write laws, who set the political agenda for these things to happen. And I think if you put those three deals together, it will decide whether or not each of our countries that we're in, whether or not we're going to have 50 companies or 100 companies that lead the future, or we're going to just wait for Silicon Valley and Bangalore and China to do it for us. And whoever does it, that's fine. Humanity is going to benefit anyway, but I think that's hopefully some of us rise up and see all of this as an opportunity. Well, thank you so much for bearing with us. I know there's 12 of you. Okay, yeah, you right there, wake up. Yep. And some of you have been very engaged, so I really appreciate the quality of conversation and the comments. So thank you to them as well for preparing with me during lunch and sharing all these ideas. I had a lot to think about, man.
Yeah. Is there anything else to anybody to not make a comment or question? Otherwise, we may close down.
I was going to shut off the internet right now. He's like, you're going to ask me a question, I'm going to turn it off.
So I think what I find really interesting is I think we're at a situation where we can see economic power actually shifting towards this side of the world, which is exciting and scary at the same time, especially coming from a place where through war and death we learn a lot about upholding human rights and looking at how that could go right or wrong for this region, just to see how we can take and continue to walk in the right way for humanity.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the comment. Very inspiring. That's one great way to close this panel. I can be contactable at @Kylie on Twitter. It's the fastest way to get me. It's like Elias KHAILEE. Just tweet me. I'll tweet right back. And let's keep this conversation going. I'll catch up with some of you after the
Closing the remark. As you mentioned, okay, internet users population. Okay, everything is starting in the USA, but today internet population central universe is here in Asia. I mean, it's inevitable because we are about 4 or 5 billion out of 7 billion people. Then internet industry, it seems to be inevitable. Some from USA, still going in the USA, but coming to this side. So it will be a halfway between the USA and the Asia. The reason is very simple. China will become a #1 economy, and India will be a #2 or #3 in a couple of years. Then all those growth tend to be a digital economy or internet economy. So here will be the center of internet economy here. And so we have to, we are sort of a center of the universe, and we have to sort of behave accordingly, not just the peripheral and just a user.
So you guys help us keep it free, okay?
And with that, thank you very much.
Hey, thanks.